Actually, when I wrote this, Oswey, Brother Oswin, he's crossing the Tees on a little ferry, and all the way he's been having these visions, these hallucinatory visions and dreams about this kind of water witch who kind of lures him into the water in his dreams, and he's terrified of her. But then when he's crossing in the ferry, he sees her come out of the reeds and swim towards, and the guy who's the ferryman, he can't see her, it's like an hallucination, but he falls in the water, and this book ends when she drags him under, and it's Peg Powler, the witch of the River Tees. And I thought that's how the story ended for a long time. And then I suddenly realised that maybe it didn't end there. Maybe he didn't drown, but she kept him as a kind of pet for several years. For 7 years, actually. Like, quite like the Odyssey, where Odysseus is on the island with... he's on one of the island for 7 years, forgets who he is, and then carries on the journey. But anyway, so Oswin is a pet, like a slave to Peg Powler for 7 years. And in that time, he's changed it. He doesn't realise, but he's changed. It's more like a boggart of some sort. By the time and this starts with him managing to escape. What does he do? He climbs out of the river and decides, he doesn't realise he's transformed, but he just carries on walking towards Whitby. And so this is the second part of the journey. He gets to Whitby for the synod. But actually, there was a pestilence going across the land that year. They think St. Wilfrid, decides that he's the one that's been spreading it, and he's this evil creature. So he wants to make a spectacle out of him and burn him on Whitby Cliffs. But St. Hill's trying to put a stop to that. So as well as the wranglings over when Easter is going to be the synod is about, in this story, it's also about what's going to happen to poor Oswin. Now, you might have noticed when I was reading that it's not like modern English, but it's not totally Old English either. It's kind of a hybrid language, using Northumbrian dialect, Cleveland dialect, Yorkshire dialect, bits of Old English, bits of modern slang. When I wrote this, carried on writing the story, and I wrote this, I got more obsessed with the language, so it's even more kind of difficult to navigate as a modern reader unless you know some Old English. However, the publisher agreed to allow me to give a modern translation on most pages, not all pages, because I want you to engage with the Old English as well. So I'm going to read the modern English, and Russ has agreed to read the Old English. We're just going to read the first part, first 10 poems or so. So, shall I start, or do you want to start?
I start.
You start?
Yeah.
Okay.
For muckle tides, all the world was her. The grind in her waters, the swale of her hearty, the flare sailed clapped to her wham, then it afen glom on my strain have, fisherban full, scrap full of whale gifts. For he'll be a cuther and a fair of the owl folks, yet beloved the swafiel, the gatherer, the hreartis, the river wheat.
From swollen tides all the world was her, the grinding of her waters, the brine-sealed robe of her womb, evening green gloom of my stream home, full of fish bones, scrap-riddled fear gifts, for she be familiar and afeared by everyone, but believed by so few, the gatherer, the reed witch, the river wife.
And he was not yet on her gathered trinkets, when ye stray on the timbered, ye let Jonah within the gutten of a while, melting into all the great turnings and singles of the happening that set a no hit in a smooth.
And I was nothing but one of her gathered trinkets, ill-gotten treasure, remoulded like Jonah in the belly of the whale, melting into all of the great swirlings and singings of the happenstances that fixed the present.
Isi and the parents of the angle coon and inboren, yon shared west of 3 hours and left twiggers. On riddle, frith candle sheen is steer glenton, and there lust and will them for Vustrat steered. And he laughed at me buttocks for their splitness, neither the earthbound freedom to me thraldom.
I saw the spying eyes of Angles and natives beyond the reflections of trees and branches, moon ripples, the glimmer of candles, starlight, and their lust and desire for this dreadful place. And I'd laugh my arse off at their quandary, envy their earthbound freedom to my captivity.
Do they witness min if they were unshrug creaper? Do they hear come min bewailan?
Did they witness my lowly, unclothed creeping? Did they hear my fiery waves of wails?
Yet, as well in a burning a leafer, swa held test pegs wretch and needling. And I, swa here slippeth. He slippest here a line, snickest fear fra here put on bed. Uppkom a flauten, toward frumlier. Fresh luft and britsang. We werpen the spellion, a rattling good.
Yet, swollen of burnings and befitting of living as demoness Peg's wretched slave, one day as she slept, I slipped her tethering, snuck far off from her mud-hole and bed, floating upward toward the dawn light, fresh air and birdsong, casting off the conspiracy of Stockholm syndrome.
Reckon the waters shimmering hue, to gulp in a gobble of honey, sunbrev yuthul. Sweat is while Lindus van meowden. Fingers je faren fair lufthelm and scrabble toward the undiopera. And overslinking hungry, die stucken stinking goor at the firmagrund can uphail the bodies with rockscraft and shinbannies and enclaves.
Breaking the water's shimmering hide to gulp a gobful of honey, sun-brewed air, sweet as Lindisfarne mead. Fingers reaching for the sky and scrabbling towards the shallows and sliding over hungry, sucking, stinking slime to find till firmer ground could support the body's weight. Rocks scrape shin bones and ankles.
Ima can fear the beck moother, drefflian into eldritch streams, slipping on moor and over climbing loggers, near gripping trea wort and togging on tuffis areas, to craft a hwyrthway. Yen the sunbeam is flare on dimly. Quick winds swamping the lago flood, bemanen and grumbling, socken within every nook, Athos and bulrushes, werpen the waters to grudges, and ekunna, when Peg have to unwalk it and befinden me gone.
I make for the beckmouth, pouring into the stream, slipping on mud and clambering over logs, gripping onto tree roots, tugging on tufts of reeds to craft and escape, but the sunbeams fade to dimness. Quick winds sweep the river, moaning and growling, searching every nook, thrashing bulrushes, whipping the water to ridges, and I know Queen Peg has awoken to find me gone.
He shouldn't at her wolf and loon and her stranger curses, her unblessing snare, a wurgon je fälenlig rhyme, and quoth the mund her grisbite and sharp and nailers, en klinket stormblastig, så herfrån för krakas, the uppluft and the wapeleth kummer, lika whale havoc.
I shudder at her wolf and howling, her string of curses, her hex's snare of condemnation, falling like rain, and picture her grisly bite and scraping nails, eyes screwed, storm blast tight, as lightning cracks the skies and the downpour comes like a warhawk.
Believing it was wise to klumma out of the backwaters, where the deadlich klutcheth of the stream neffel, rusty and wormly onto the drink and earth, off a staggering into the thickest hunker, shivering under blasted, cleaning trail bowls, a bead in the storm hill, and you healed in the puddles swell, rather than spill.
Believing it wise to climb out of the backwaters from the deadly clutches of the river devil, I writhed like a worm onto the drenched earth, staggering off into the thickets to hunker, shivering under blasted, leaning tree trunks to wait out the storm and watch the puddles swelling, commingling and spilling.
And within the rippling runnels he sealed me, and Johannes, swat not never burned, splashing and bewooling and but in sweat puddles, afore getting a clout and but the lugs be our wrath and mother, for coming home smitten in clown. And he wondered, what has become of me brother?
And within the rippling runnels I saw me and Johannes as two snot-nebbed bairns splashing and rolling about before getting a clout about the lugs by our irate mother for coming home smeared in filth. And I wonder, what has become of my brother?
The puddles reach legal fish into the best infamy or the children and back, so if to need find it when peg.
These puddles rush like eels into the bubbling foam of the churning beck, as if coming home to Queen Peg.
We'll teed 'em, here I have tracked me with coondness, calling me polwiggy, strocketh me a swaben, and feeding me truffies of froggaleggies, beatless, snailers, shrimpy, and seawort.
Sometimes she treated me with kindness, calling me tadpole, stroking me, calming and feeding me tidbits of frogs' legs, beetles, snails, shrimp and seaweed.
We'll teed 'em, here smothered me in sippy cosses, and sweaty bletsums on a rad me like a luffier.
Sometimes she smothered me in soft kisses and sweet blessings, then rode me like a love fiend.
We'll teed 'em, here was swordful, grown, and brawny tear mede. We'll teed 'em, here was office leech, gilpias here than in office nesse, and beat it and screep me, saying, here must goblin me up, snad be snad. And should he begins with an ear finger, should he rough it ut min tunge, or the better to render af and flesh plumping for me buttocks.
Sometimes she was sorrowful, agitated and weary from weeping. Sometimes she was bitter, arrogant in spite, and would bite and scratch me, saying she might gobble me up piece by piece. And should she begin with her little finger, or should she rip out my tongue, or better, to tear off a fleshy lump from my buttocks?
Me mund bear a mist helmedidderens, and he wonder, how long have they been hair ply finger?
My mind is a fog of tremors, and I wonder how long I have been her plaything.
Amongst drippy and thuflas on bed of fallen leaves, he säker to mimbor and the life we have lad before him. He becomes the fan gureles galdos for wattling. There were cloudums, places, harfield swayers, a rod, a foor, a godwife, an old man, a harley mother. There be a why maiden. The bearer wielding and weir axe. Yet they were dreamlech wimmer and glilder hunga. Whether and Leaward still rangum bud me hereford. Ik a knull of the church and bell calling ale to worshipper. Stranus house. Stranus house. Stranus house. The my lights come up and I can't see this. I'll do that this thing. Alright, thanks. Stranus house. Stranus house. Stranus house. The abbot reacher of Herian sang, setting hair on wheat cliffs, flairton on earthen leather, frithu and glengful with godwed, Bilockian da, by Hwæt eskmetes the brimflod, and he cuthed. He me breast hod, that be a where, ear near Jan.
Among dripping shrubs and a bed of fallen leaves, I seek to remember the life I led before I became the fiend girl's enchanted wetling. There are flickerings, places, half-heard voices across, a fire, a good wife, an old man, a holy mother. There was a young maid, the bear wielding a war axe. But they are dreamlike phantoms and slipperings, although one word of joy still rings about my head like the knell of a church bell, calling all to worship. Strionslal, Strionslal, Strionslal. The abbey of praise songs set high on white cliffs, floating on choral voices, peace, and adorned with flags, overlooking the bay where the Esk meets the sea, and I know in my heart that is where I need to be.
Latemast, the rain wakens, though loon and wind is still blawe. Nither, within the wood of Dane, there be a na land merkt that lean in himself. Though the wind and beck be a uwist to be floor, for uplands for trade and feel the hullness.
At last, the rain lessens, although howling winds still blow. Down in the wooded Dean, there are no landmarks to align myself, although the winding beck is sure to flow from the highlands running from the hills.
Ye hear min hunger grollen in Tawny with the gloob and beck flood.
I hear my hunger grumbling in tune with the glugging beck song.
Suddenly, and drumbo be a commas fimbling through the trails to Tergen and Bootmere, fat furbear spreckled with lost crumbs, gathered for sweater from milk, beflain near. Then he settled on min foriam, swa settiful swa elf cosses. He will come in the honey maiden with a whisper, for it Eftwyrd into luft. Yet it stathers close, fletty near within its tumbling drani. Seilung Eft, and like to Eft come, wherefore and trembling boot me.
Suddenly, a bumblebee comes fumbling through the trees to buzz about me, fat furball speckled with pollen, gathered for sweet flower milk, flying close, then settles onto my forearm, as soft as elf kisses. I welcome the honey maiden with a whisper, before it flits off into the air, but it stays close, flying near, within its tumbling drone, sailing off only to return, whirling and wheeling about me.
Drete hit gan fleten itch ye chosa to fulgath, whether it wills.
On the third time it goes flitting, I choose to follow wherever it leads.
It comes back to me, so he waft through the wood.
It comes back to me as I weave through the woods.
There be a gan tid when Edod attending the hoover, helping al Munster, till in the Munster swear, gathering the honey terrors on wormy summer afternoons, swelling the hoover into the pool place for winter room.
There was a bygone time when I tended the hive, helping old Wunston manage the minster's swarm, gathering the honey tears on warm summer evenings, swaddling the hive in sheep's fleeces for the winter's ice.
I min boran Wunston, sprechen the dumbbellgrays, telling tidungs of all the cummins and garnens, with us any sickness of the death within the frithyard. When he asked Hwæt, he do the lock him and but in beware done. Then he said, in an smult weak ta, swana othra sawl me out here. Yes, a bear an spark, we took some the cook and the dead.
I remember old Wunston speaking to the bees, telling them news of all comings and goings, especially of sickness or deaths within the sanctuary. When I asked him why, he looked about warily, then said, like a gentle breeze, so no other soul might hear. These bear messages between the living and the dead.
Imimbor an anothra bear that stang a while laddie, welcome an in to me within a hulman of tears, that the ed bear hulda in Bradhan, and he swappened heel, telling he, Eal won't bear full how. Though he will not think on das teames, na on what become on me bairns.
I remember another bee that stung a small boy, who came running to me in waves of tears, the dead bee held in his palm, and I swept him up, telling him all would be well, although I will not think of those times, nor on what became of my bairns.
Waar tu ladnes sin Jarrow way and way, wa clava queen.
Where do you lead in your wending way, little clover queen? That's as far as we're going.